Ever since I can remember, I was always a tech fan. I grew up in Stockholm, in Sweden. I remember my parents got me the first iPod, and I was only like 12 at the time. And the first generation iPod was very complicated because I don't know if you guys remember, it had the FireWire connection.
Right.
I had a PC.
Yeah.
It didn't have the FireWire connection, so I had to buy first I got the iPod. I didn't know you couldn't connect it to the PC. Then I had to buy a PCI card for FireWire, install that to even be able to connect the iPod. And back then there was no iTunes, so it was a real player to manage the music. But anyway, that product got me really hooked on technology because the scroll wheel was really cool, and managing the music library, fixing all the ID3 tags for each song, getting the album art perfect. And a couple of years later, I was probably, I think I was the first to get the iPod in my entire school. So I was a cool kid among the nerds in the beginning.
Where was school, Carl?
That was in Stockholm.
What year are we talking about?
iPod, when was iPod? 2001?
Yeah, you're 36 today, right?
Yeah, 35, turning 36. So when I was 12, I got the iPod. Really excited about that product. Then I got the first iPhone through a friend in the US because the iPhone was only exclusive with AT&T. So I had a friend buy it for me, and then we had to pay a $450 cancellation fee on the contract, and then got it shipped, and then jailbroke it and installed my own SIM card. So I was the first among all my friends to get the iPhone. But I think those two products were super formative for me. I guess the third thing that happened was then I got the iPad. I forgot which year, but the first year the iPad came out. And I don't know if you guys remember, it used to have a skeuomorphic UI. So basically the UI tried to mimic how things look like in real life. And when you swipe from the bottom, there was a control panel, and it was like metallic. So you had like a volume knob that was brushed metal. But when you tilted the iPad, the light source of the graphic also changed. So I'm like, oh my God, like if Apple thinks about every little detail like this, I can trust them on like, they've figured everything out. So those three moments made me a big fan of this industry and of Apple.
Do you still feel that way about Apple?
No, it's a very different company now.
When did it change?
I think the change has been gradual. I think the two CEOs have had a very different approach to running the company. I mean, the stock price doesn't lie. I think Tim Cook has done a great job on the shareholder value creation side. But when it just comes to inspiring a young guy or a young person to take a career in tech, I think the old Apple was way better at that. So really inspired by those products. And then I was chronically online as a kid. My parents were busy. They were always at work, but I got a laptop computer, and I got fiber internet at a very young age because the infrastructure was pretty well developed in Sweden.
So at 12 you had
fiber.
And phone, access to phone? And
I had a Nokia 3210.
At 12 years old?
Yeah. So then fast forward to later, so I had the internet, started making friends online because I felt like the friends around me, they only saw a very small part of the world, whereas online you can connect with anybody. So I made a very good friend. We were chatting on MSN Messenger every single day about how to make money online. We were both writing blogs and making websites and all that stuff. And then he then became the youngest founder to get into Y Combinator. And he's like 2 years younger than me. So I was very jealous when he got in. He was probably 17 or something. And so that was also my plan. So after uni, I'm going to apply for Y Combinator. So it was a different time when the consumer internet was still very like booming with Facebook and all that.
Okay, and then?
So I was planning to go to YC. And then I was playing a lot of games, a lot of League of Legends at that time. So it wasn't very...
Games as in like video games?
Yeah, like online computer games. So I was a bit lazy, so I didn't write my application. But then I got a phone call from the CEO of Meizu back then. He's like, hey, we want to become more international. Do you want to help? So I had like two options. Either I have to write my application for YC, or I can go to China to join Meizu. I took the path of least resistance and didn't finish my university. I moved to Hong Kong in 2011
For Meizu.
for Meizu.
Just for the minute, Meizu was the Apple of China that time. They were the first one to come up with a phone.
Yeah?
The first Chinese smartphone.
Yes. It was Meizu.
They made really great MP3 players before. That's when I got to know the company. And then, to be a part of the beginning of something interesting, that's why I moved. And also out of laziness, to not have to write the thesis for university and the application for YC. And the reason why he reached out to me was because after I discovered their products in 2006, I made an online fan community about that company. And it got quite big. We got to like 70,000 users, members. We were updating like people on the new firmware updates and customization and all that stuff. And then I think he saw something in that and decided to call.
So the founder of Meizu called you himself.
The CEO.
Yeah?
The professional CEO.
Wow. Okay, and you were in Nokia for 3 months.
Yeah, that was before that,
that.
just for like a summer internship.
Right. And after Meizu?
So I didn't stay that long. I think I stayed like a year. I left because I quickly realized that it was a family business. So the key positions were all family members, and it's hard to build a very big company like that, I think.
Was the professional CEO a family member?
He wasn't, but imagine how hard it was for him to do his work. But head of finance, head of international, it's probably not going to work. So I started applying for jobs. I applied for Xiaomi. I applied for OPPO. I applied for another company that's no longer here called Smartisan.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
Smartisan they had that.
This is based from Bangalore-based startup, am I right?
No. This is based out of Beijing
Yeah, back in the day.
with their Hammer UI and all that. Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, they did some good design.
Yeah.
So the Smartisan guy never responded to me. I interviewed at Xiaomi and OPPO. And to be honest, I think back then Xiaomi was a rocket ship, like a venture-backed, I think Sequoia and like a bunch of really well-known VCs were backing them.
DST and all those
DST.
guys. Yeah.
So I was actually quite intimidated by the people I met there. Like everybody that interviewed with me at Xiaomi felt very aggressive, like results-oriented, very smart. Whereas when I interviewed with OPPO, it felt more like a traditional manufacturing culture. So selfishly, I thought that if I join this less aggressive culture, I can shine more.
Did you get a job at Xiaomi as well?
I dropped out of the interview process after we made an agreement with OPPO at that time. Yeah, so then OPPO also saw the rise of Xiaomi, because Xiaomi was selling phones online. They were the first to do that in the world. And they could undercut the other people because the distribution cost was a lot lower. So OPPO was also trying to find a strategy to hedge against the rise of Xiaomi. So they created a new brand called OnePlus, supposed to be online. By leveraging the supply chain that OPPO had built, because Xiaomi was still building their supply chain, they didn't have those advantages.
Is OnePlus still a part of OPPO?
Yeah. So then I had just joined, and I was like, hey, I can't just join and then you start a new company. Like I want to be a part of the new company. But then I was told that the new company is not for international, it's just for China, to fight Xiaomi in China. But I kind of made the case that it doesn't hurt, right? Like if I can run international, it's all free money. Like you guys can still focus on China, and everything else is just extra on top of that. So that's how I, in the beginning, got the opportunity. I was only 24 to run international.
Were you more a marketing person at this point, or were you more the technical person at this point?
I was more marketing, I think. I was kind of like because ever since I was 12 and I got that computer, I started making websites. And then I built traffic, sold advertising. So like just I had a deep desire to make money when I was young. So more like business/marketing, just trying to make it work, hustling. So that's kind of what we did. After 1 year, after launching the product at OnePlus, China did $100 million in revenue. International did 200 million. China lost money, international made money. And then we decided to pivot the entire company to be more focused on international because the competition in China was too high.
Yeah.
So that was the OnePlus journey. Spent 7 years at OnePlus. Very grateful because I was just a kid, like being able to participate in such a high capex industry without needing to use my own money. I didn't have money. So very grateful for all those opportunities, allowing me to fail with a lot of crazy ideas and learning from those. Ultimately, so it's kind of like a CPG strategy where we buy components from different suppliers, we package the components, and we have a unique position in the market, design, brand, and sell the product. I had done that for 7 years. I didn't feel like that's what I wanted to do my entire life. I want to not only implement other people's technology, I also want the opportunity to eventually impact how people use technology. So I knew I had to go independent. So I left in 2020 in September. And on my birthday, that was like a birthday gift for myself. And started this new company called Nothing. It's been 4.5 years. We underestimated the difficulty in building this, but we're still around. So very grateful to still have opportunities to build a company. But it was a bit tougher than we expected.
And
Are you branding your phone by keeping it there?
Yeah, it's from free exposure.
It has a very distinctive back, right?
Yeah, so that's our entire thing. It's a very mature industry, and it's very hard to compete because everybody is at very high scale. So they have a lot of advantages. We're not reinventing the category. It was invented a long time ago by somebody else. So for us, it's all about carving out a small position in the market first. We don't have to have everybody love us. It's okay if 90% of people don't care about us or hate us, as long as we get a niche group of consumers to really love us. That works in our industry because it's so big. Maybe it doesn't work for smaller categories. So for us, we chose to differentiate through design because it was the fastest way to differentiate. If we picked, technology, it would take years to play out. A lot of investment, a lot of years. We also didn't want to reinvent the product category. Like, if we have crazy ideas on a new gadget, we might spend years on trying to build it, and then if we launch it, you only have one chance. If people don't like it, you're screwed. Yeah, so we start with hardware design, then we move to software design. Now we're investing more and more into the OS itself, into AI. So I think for us, it's about building differentiation and moats over time, but in a gradual way. Don't move too fast because then you might kind of fall off the horse.